What is up, my ninjas? I am Strydent, and I am back with another review. I apologize for the length of time in between the last review and this one, but there is a lot going on, and I'm still kind of grappling with motivation to even continue based on the current state of YouTube. But I do have a lot of stuff that I want to talk to you about, and I want to show you, share with you, and see what your reactions are. This review is of a figure that I just got, though it's been out for a while, but I figure it's relevant because you know that I have made a switch from just collecting standard Marvel characters to only the MCU ones. Except for maybe the X-Men. When it comes to the X-Men, the only quality versions of those figures that you're going to get will be comic book related figures. So they are the only caveat. There are still a few. I'm selling off so many of my comic book figures. There's only a select few that I'm keeping, but the reason why I'm doing this review is because, like I said, in keeping with the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe versions of certain characters or of my Avengers, etc., this is a figure that I had been waiting for, and I had the opportunity to pick this up in lieu of the newer one, the Toys R Us exclusive one that I somehow missed. I never saw it in the store back when Toys R Us was still there, even when they were closing. I missed this, so I jumped on it now. So this is the Civil War version of the MCU Scarlet Witch. Thank goodness I didn't say Black Widow. For some reason I have a habit of mixing those two up, the names, when I'm looking at this character and whatever. I don't know, maybe I thought somewhere in the back of my subconscious, I thought, what's her name? Elizabeth Olsen would have been a better Scarlet Witch. Black Widow? I don't know. I really don't know, but you might hear that once or twice. I'm going to do my best not to do that in this video. But anyway, the figure is pretty nice. That head sculpt is so on point. Elizabeth Olsen is fine, and this one looks good. The makeup is a little heavy, but overall it's still an awesome face sculpt. The gesturing fingers, wow. The gesturing fingers are on another level because it's another detail that they didn't even get on Doctor Strange. Yet here, because that is the way she does her powers, it's on full display here, and I love it. Colors are perfect. Everything's perfect. There's probably a slight difference between this one and this is the Infinity War version, but I went with this one just because this is what I think of when I think of the character. I don't really think too much of the newer. Like, I think of her doing stuff that she did in Infinity War, but I picture her looking like this, if that makes sense. But I love this figure. I was blown away by just how much of the small details managed to translate and how all those small details work really well with the figure. But I am going to go through in a more of a sit-down kind of format with this figure because I don't really need to. It's an older figure, so there's little bits and pieces. I will talk about Articulation when you see her in action, but I'm not going to do a traditional Articulation section. I'm going to just blabber on about what works and what doesn't work, and what I like and what I don't like, and you know the deal, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and everything in between. So sit back, relax, get something to eat, drink, and let's get this on. So, MCU Scarlet Witch has a great design. What I dig the most about this figure, and I think it's a success almost overall, is that the design has elements of the classic design. A long flowing jacket instead of a cape, the bustier, the tight pants and all, and the boots and the heels, all that. It all looks like the way the character, it reminds you of the way many artists drew the character. These were details they would add to the character in comics, at least in the modern era, and they somehow made this into something feasible that you could see her walking around in today's world that coupled with the head sculpt that puts some of the previous Marvel legends to shame, especially figures from the line like Falcon. What the fuck? Look how bad that sculpt looks, and then you look how good she looks, and she literally came from the same freaking wave, or couple of waves, whatever that was. This is probably another reason why they need to just invest in making a movie line where we get consistent waves of only movie related characters. That would make a lot of people happy. But the hands are extremely emotive. The hands look like all the craziness that she does with her fingers in the films, and I love that. She doesn't really come with very much, but even if she came with more hands, that would have probably been awesome. But as is, this is an extremely awesome set of hands, to add to the action that she can get into. Speaking of action, let's talk a little bit about the articulation. Now, overall, she does just about everything you need her to do, with a few notable exceptions. Because she doesn't have a butterfly joint, she cannot cross her arms over her chest. So all those kind of poses are out the window. Just forget about those. Her hair does hinder her head movement when it comes to looking up, but you can get a slight up because the hair is pretty malleable in terms of rubbery plastics go. It looks sturdy. It feels sturdy enough that over time it may not break down. I mean, you never know. Her hands, she's got the swivel at the wrist. She's got the swivel at the elbow. She does not have a bicep swivel because she has a swivel at the elbow, and that's the way it should be. She has a very decent range of motion in the shoulders, so she can get her hands up and down with no problem, out side to the side, as you can see from many of these pictures. There's no issues. Can I talk more about the fingers again? I mean, those fingers look great. I mean, like, from that angle, they kind of look weird, but they look great. I mean, every little detail is there. The rings are well painted, just like they were on Gamora from the Guardians 2 wave. Here she is in comparison to her Cheapo Toys version. I always, for some reason, forget what that line is called. I think it's Hero Vision. I could be wrong. But I was going to originally switch these heads because I thought that the head on that looked better than what I remembered the head looking like on the other one. But as you can see, they're almost identical, just that she has orange hair instead of brown hair, which is closer to the light brown, reddish, like light auburn that she had in Infinity War. Now, those are details that I'm not going to sit here and stress. If I come across a version of her that is, affordable, then maybe I'll pick it up, because if you guys don't know, the set with her and Vision goes for like $200. It's stupid. Mostly, it's kind of silly, because it's like, really, guys. So this was my placeholder for a while, because this was a $10 figure. She does not have the articulation that the Marvel Legends typically have. She does not have, the ability to do splits and, a lot of stuff. Her arms are fine, but she doesn't have any wrist articulation. But yeah, she's kind of limited, very limited. But as you can see, like, the face is just on point on the Legends version. It's just so much more, and this one is too. But with the hair, the orange hair throws it off. At first, I thought it would be cool, but now she's in Jean Grey territory, and I was like, nah, I'm not doing all that. But the face is just, I mean, that's Elizabeth Olsen. It's crazy. I was super impressed, looking at these figures side by side, because, if you could only afford the Hero Vision ones, that's a lot of bang for your buck. So yeah, I like these figures. I really do. Another thing that I'm digging about them is that the sculpting isn't too harsh and it's not too flat. Some of the Figure Arts figures and some of the Mafex figures, it's like such a light sculpt that they only look like themselves from certain angles. This is such a hard sculpt that it looks, and I say hard, not to diss anything, but I'm saying hard as in the details are there, and they're crisp and clean. You know what I mean? They didn't give you an essence. This is 100% the character. I mean, when you see them side by side, you can see even more differences, but it does feel very much like the actual character. Now I think it's time to go into some real comparisons. So a big part of this is that she has to look good with her fellow Avengers. And she has to look good against other threats from other lines. So here she is in comparison to some other threats and other girls in other lines. So here she is compared to a bunch of other female characters. I tried to get all the major companies in. You got DC Direct or DC Collectibles, Hasbro, Bandai, and Figma. And I mean, honestly, if we're collecting superheroes, these are pretty much the variants or the companies that do the best shit. NECA hasn't really done much superhero stuff unless you're talking about the quarter scale stuff, and I don't collect that, so no, I couldn't do that. Here she is next to male characters. I tried once again to get everybody in there. We got NECA, Hasbro, Mafex, which is Medicom, Bandai, which is Figuarts, and then you have the Four Horsemen, which is Mythic Legions, and I think she fares well in comparison to some of those characters and their sizes. She doesn't look too tall or too small. And here she is next to some of the others with a DCUC thrown in. I figured somebody's going to wonder, so let me put that in there. So, now for the bottom line. This figure is a couple years old, and the reason why I picked her up is because if you look at the new one, it's the same exact figure with a different head sculpt. The part that bothers me, or a modified head sculpt, I should say, the part that bothers me is that she had a different costume at the end of Age of Ultron. You can kind of tell that they must have thought about it, and it didn't look quite as, I don't know, I don't want to say realistic, but believable. I don't know. But I think it looks dope, and I think with the aesthetics that they're going for, it should have been her costume at some point before we got the version that we had in Civil War. Or maybe after Civil War, maybe she looked like what the figure looks like. But with that being said, this toy does do a really good job capturing Elizabeth Olsen as the Scarlet Witch. Goodness, Scarlet Widow. She looks the part. Anatomy is all on point. The paint is all on point. I mean, this is another example of why the MCU figures are where Marvel Legends really shines. I mean, you're seeing newly sculpted parts, and you're seeing paint and variation of paint and washes and airbrushes and all kinds of things that you normally will not see on standard Marvel Legends. So I gotta go with these, you know, for the money. They're easily the best. When you see her with her team, and you know my team, like I said, it's a little mixed matched because I have different versions of the characters from different films. But overall, I do have a representation of all the characters. I mean, like, I don't really like most of Iron Man's new suits. I prefer the older ones, but I like what I see with them. I mean, they look really damn good. I'm impressed, and I think you will be too. So if you can't find the version from Infinity War, don't feel bad. Just go back and pick this one up. They're the same figures with slightly different hair and a slightly different face sculpt. So that about wraps it up for my look at the Marvel Legends MCU Scarlet Witch from Civil War. She's a quality figure, and as usual, that is my story, and I am sticking to it. So as always, thank you for watching, thank you for listening. I hope you dug the review, and I will catch you on the next one. Peace outside.
You saw, please give it a like, a share, let your friends know. Check me out on social media. All the links are in the description. And if you really want to help me out big time, jump on Patreon and support the channel. Every little bit helps, the smallest amount to the largest amount.